That's $300,000. Ooh, up from 150.
Cameron Kinsky, you're live.
I will call the meeting to order. This is Senate Appropriations Committee, Friday, January 27, 2023, 8 a.m. Linda, call the roll, please.
Senator Anderson.
Here.
Senator Guru. Senator Nethercott. Senator Salazar and Chairman Kinsky.
Here. We have two matters, Senate File 90, Wyoming Property Tax Relief Authority, Senate File 141, Transportation Technology Transfer Center Program Funding. And we're going to reverse the order, please. And Senator Pappas, welcome. It's good to see you this morning. I don't think that's the longest bill title I've ever seen, but it's getting pretty close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. So I bring to you today Transportation Technology Transfer Center Program funding. You notice that Senator Landon and I are sponsors, but this was actually a committee bill. Just a little bit of background. It was a committee bill. The Transportation Technology Transfer Program is a program that's run out of the University of Wyoming in their transportation in the engineering department. They have been doing this program for decades, okay? And they've been doing it for paved roads. It's a program where the University of Wyoming will collect data. Actually, a contractor collects the data, gives it to the University of Wyoming. They do their number crunching and then they provide to the counties and cities information so they know where to put their maintenance dollars and their construction dollars. We've been doing this for paved roads for a long time. They do one half of the state every other year, and that's how the counties know where to put their dollars to do maintenance funding. This program is paid for right now out of there's $150,000 that is pulled right out of the funds that are collected from the gas tax that goes to the county. So before it's distributed to the counties, $150,000 is pulled out and given to the University of Wyoming to do this work. All this bill does now is it moves us to the realm of gravel roads. I actually had Mr. Riemann here, Jeremiah Riemann, with the county commissioners, was going to be here with me. He's the expert on this. He knows all the numbers and but we've got almost 15,000 miles of county roads in this state, and only 17% of them are paved. So there's a big need out there to do the same program as we do for the paved roads. So this bill came in front of the committee during the interim. There was a former member on the committee who's no longer with us, a House member, that actually ran an amendment that unfortunately passed, that removed the University of Wyoming and allowed it to be open to all community colleges. Community colleges, one in particular in his area, in the central part of the state, certainly the community colleges don't want to get into this program, but it poisoned the bill. Senator Anderson knows what we speak, but so no one voted for the bill. I didn't vote for the bill, but I thought it was the counties need it, and it was a good bill. And so I brought it back as a private bill, and Senator Landon, our former chair of transportation, signed on with me. We did it at the last minute, so I don't have a lot of sponsors, didn't get any from the other side, but that's the history, okay, about the program and why we're seeking to now create the same type of ability for gravel roads. And so the work is going to be exponentially increased. So there's more gravel roads than there are paved roads. And again, the data is collected by a third-party contractor given to the University of Wyoming, and they will crunch the numbers and will give the numbers to the county commissioners for their use in distributing the money. The actual money that's asked for in here, the county, it requires the county to pony up another $150,000. Okay, so they're gonna, out of their pockets, they're gonna take they think it's so important, they're taking $300,000 out of their pocket to get this data. And then since the program is, as I mentioned, so much larger, and we're asking for a match from the state of another 300,000. And reason being, it is in the state's vested interest to make sure these gravel roads are properly maintained, and we know where we're putting the money in these roads, because it affects especially the oil and gas industry. They use most of these roads, the agriculture industry as well. So our two major industries here in the state use these gravel roads, and so this program is in as a state is in our best interest to fund this technology program, so that we can provide this information from the University of Wyoming. Now the money goes to YDOT, and YDOT manages it. Okay, and so they've been doing this for gravel roads for years, and I spoke to Luke Reiner, our director of transportation. He was at the committee, our Senate Transportation Committee, and he's in favor of this. He couldn't be here today, but he wanted me to pass on his thoughts, and his thoughts are that they'd be happy to expand their work. They're not asking for any more money to do it in their budget. But the roads that will actually be, the dirt roads that actually will be covered under this really aren't state roads. It's not under his purview. These are more local and county roads, but he'd be glad to help out the counties to do this. And so he has no issue with it. So with that, again, I don't know that we really need to talk the merits of the program. You're looking at the appropriation. The appropriation is basically a state match of what the counties are putting in. So $300,000 to match their $300,000 to expand this to the gravel road arena. With that, I'll take questions.
Committee,
Mr. Chairman,
please.
I was on the Transportation Committee when this was brought. There's multiple counties that really want to do this because they just don't have time to inspect their own county roads. And the county roads that get maintained are the ones that have the loudest voices. So they're equipment restricted, so they can only do certain roads anytime. And they would like to have some more information as to what the condition is rather than just listening to the complainers. So they are really interested in this, but they all, three of them in the center of the state think they could finance it themselves, and two down there on the western side think they could, but the rest of them can't possibly afford this. So they need that help. And so if they only had to do 50% of it, they would be in a lot better shape. So I'm all for this. I was on the committee when we got that poison pill with the community colleges bidding on this. I called my community college, which would be the one that could possibly do it. And they said they had no possible way to do that, that they were not interested in getting into it and and putting forth the administration to do it or anything. And yet we passed that amendment and killed the bill, like you say. So I'm all for this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
since we switched order of the bills, Mr. Reman is now here with us, and Jeremiah, I explained the program to them, how we're doing it for paved roads and now shifting to the gravel roads, and gave them a few of the, the numbers. But if you want to add a few words in support from the commissioners, I'd appreciate it.
So welcome. You can resolve this form. Is it Reman or Ryman? What's the pro?
Mr. Chairman, it is Reman.
No, sorry, I've been getting it wrong for 10 years.
No worries, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jeremiah Reman here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. Apologize for my delay. I'm triple or quadruple booked this morning, so
You're just on time.
I'm a bit all over. Mr. Chairman, sounds like you've had a good introduction to the bill and our issue. We really do appreciate the University of Wyoming's technology transfer program and the valuable information that provides back on, in particular, our pavement across the counties. But that's just a small fraction of the road system that the counties are responsible for. And so we're looking for the opportunity to dovetail into a gravel road management system, which frankly will benefit many of the counties far more than the pavement management system currently does. And we think it also has a great benefit to the state of Wyoming, given how many of our industrial activities, our agricultural activities are down county roads. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to belabor things. I'm happy to answer any questions that there may be, but appreciate your favorable consideration.
Senator Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Ryman, wouldn't you agree with my statement that the counties are short of equipment and they need to buy a lot more motor graders?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely would agree with you and really appreciate the legislation you passed just a couple of years ago that allowed for counties to use up to $100,000 of their road monies towards the purchase or lease of motor graders. It's the only piece that we can buy with that equipment or with that money. But it has done a great deal for local governments.
Committee? Anything else? Senator Guru, you're a county commissioner. Is this a familiar program to you?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Yes, not only was I a commissioner, I was a road commissioner.
Mm.
Did you know there are 1,500 miles of county roads in Campbell County? Most of them are unpaved. This program is
In Campbell County?
Campbell County is highly significant for them. This is, they're kind of at the center of it. In Teton County, where I was county commissioner, there's 72 miles of roads, but in this 72 miles of roads, we carry more car traffic than all the other counties. So it too has applicability for us as well, because our roads are quite busy. So both ways, any way you cut it, whether you're in Campbell County, Teton County, or all the counties in between. This is a great program and I am supporting it enthusiastically. Thank you.
Senator Nethercon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It certainly is compelling that the counties who are always cash strapped are willing to put money in the game and recognizing the importance of the program. So that I think says it all. Obviously, this will not be just a one-time fund. This will need, how often is the data collected and how often will we be asked to appropriate what I think is a very good usage of dollars? Just point of clarification.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Nethercott, the current pavement management system is done in conjunction with YDOT. They collect data on one half of the state every year and then do the other half the other year. And that's for all pavement in the state of Wyoming. As you can imagine, gravel roads is a different beast. We're adding magnitude of miles more to this process. So I don't think you're going to see that it's going to happen that they do half the state every year. we've had the conversations. In fact, we've been engaged with conversations with the university for a number of years around this concept. We're going to have to identify what are our priorities within those systems, because there are also varying grades of gravel roads. So I anticipate that it's going to take several years to do each half of the state and build it up. So our commitment under this would be eternal, essentially. We would love for that to be the same on the state side of the equation, but understand that budgets are budgets, and that we'll have to consider that as we move forward too.
Anything else, committee? Out of curiosity, what is the technology? Are they driving all these roads? They doing it by satellite imagery? What are they doing?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, they have a very technical van, if you will, that has all sorts of sensors on it to capture dust information, vibrations.
I called it a bump truck.
Yeah, right, exactly. And yeah, they just have people driving up and down the roads, collecting that data, and then it's transmitted back to the university. The university then compounds all that information and presents reports.
Let's go to the fiscal note. It says $300, 23, 24. And so that's biannually, this looks like $600,000.
Mr. Chairman, that would be correct.
Okay. And the current cost of the program is 150. So we're going from 300 per year to 450 per year, or is the other 150 baked in here?
So, Mr. Chairman, under our current state laws, the Department of Transportation captures $150,000 of money that otherwise would go to the counties for their county road maintenance and construction programs, and diverts that to the University of Wyoming for this program. Under this particular bill, we're asking to increase that contribution up to the $300,000. So an additional $150,000 from counties to the program. And then we're asking for the state to match the county contribution to that particular program. And Mr. Chairman, if I can, those are not the only contributions that are made to the University of Wyoming Technology Transfer Program. If you go into the other parts of this statute, each county contributes, I believe it's $32,500 to the program. There are other funders. I believe the university itself has to provide funding. The Department of Transportation provides some support. All of that is for the greater program at the University of Wyoming. But under this, there is 150 additional from the counties and 300 from the state.
So it shows here general fund rather than gas tax. I take it if you didn't intercept it, it would go to the general fund. Is that why it's listed as a general fund appropriation?
Mr. Chairman, my intent here was never to try and draw YDOT funds off the roads. And so the committee settled towards general fund. That's where I would prefer it stay, but certainly there are other options available to you as a committee on terms of where that money would come from on the state side.
I'm just trying to understand if you're either drawing on the gas tax or you're drawing on the general fund. And this says general fund, but the presentation said gas tax. So now I'm lost.
Mr. Chairman, the $150,000 local contribution comes from what is gas tax.
Okay.
Actually, under this bill, Mr. Chairman, it would be $300,000. If this bill were to pass, $300,000 of county money drawn from the gas tax would go into the technology transfer program. And then 300,000 of state money out of the general fund would also go into the technology program.
Okay, let's go back to page 3. Let's go through lines 8. trying to find the county. That may not be it. I'm looking for the county contribution. I see the state.
Mr. Chairman,
line 10, county contribution.
yes, line 8 would be 1/2 of the county contribution. Remember, the county is already under state law contributing 150. We're gonna add another 150 here and then match it with 300 from the state.
Well, this describes a range of 150 to 300.
Mr. Chairman, so what we're already contributing $150,000. We want that to stay in the pavement management system. We're not trying to undercut ourselves there. We're now asking to contribute another $150,000 and have that dedicated to the the gravel road management system under this.
Okay, well, on line 9, the 150 is underlined, indicating it's new language in the statute, so. And not more than 300. I'm trying, what's the mechanism that moves it from 150 to 300? Somehow the counties have to agree to the extra 150. How does it, what triggers that extra 150? It says minimum 150 up to.
Mr. Chairman, that's on page 5 on line 1 and 2.
That makes sense. Let me go back to page 3, see what this is doing. I think I'm following. I'll have to get LSO to track this through so I understand exactly what we're voting on. So it's gas tax, intercepted gas tax plus state general fund money. And how many counties do you know take advantage of this?
Mr. Chairman, this is all captured before it's distributed to the county. So in essence, all 23 counties are contributing to this program.
Okay. All right, committee, anything else? Anything else? Senator Pappas or Mr. Ryman? Okay, agency comment? Any agency comment? Anybody on Zoom, Linda?
Mr. Chairman, there's no one on the line.
Okay. Go ahead and put them on. I don't know whether it's, oh, I thought she said no
no
one.
one.
Okay, and I gotta check these hearing aids. Super. All right, no public comment, no more agency comment. I'll close the hearing. It's to the committee.
Move bill.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion from the committee. Hearing nothing. Linda, please call the roll.
Senator Anderson,
Aye.
Senator Carew,
Aye.
Senator Nethercott, Senator Salzar, and Chairman Kinsky.
Aye.
Thank you,
Great.
committee.
Thank you. We'll stand at ease until we can get Senator Case on the next.
Chairman Kinsky, you have a re-referral
Oh, we
from
do.
yesterday.
Okay.
And I have a handout for you, the bill. It's Senate File 127. Wyoming Stable Token. And I'll just hand it out.
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks, Jeremiah. Good to see you both.
Freeman.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Freeman,
Freeman.
sorry, Freeman. Long,
I've called him both,
he's probably
but he
used to
says
it.
Freeman.
He's probably used to both. Thank you, Linda. And so I take it this would be Senator Rothfuss? Or is there somebody here on this committee that's part of the blockchain? Okay. Do we want to wait for Chris or do you want to walk us? Okay.
He knows this was a possibility.
500,000 from the general fund. Stable token administration.
I can kind of provide some background if you'd like.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So committee members, what you have is the Wyoming Stable Token Act, which is not the first time you've seen a rendition of this bill draft. As you recall, the legislature passed it out, I believe, in 21, in an effort to do so again in 2020. The governor vetoed it. And Senator Rothfuss, the chairman of the blockchain committee on the Senate side, has worked, I think, tirelessly with the governor's office to provide comfort associated with the creation of a Wyoming Stable Token Act. Notably, I think it's important to recognize that at the time that the bill originally passed out of the legislature, the circumstances associated with stable tokens, the market was significantly different. And at that time, there was an ability to really be a first mover in the space and make significant money for the state of Wyoming. That time has passed as a result of the veto. However, I think that there's still an opportunity for money to be made. That said, I think Chairman Rothfuss really has done the lion's share of the work on seeing this through and providing many of the safeguards associated with the bill draft. So, I'm just buying time for Senator Rothfuss. He's on his way up. But happy to kind of answer questions on the big picture about Stable Token Act, who's involved, how it works.
So tell me, when the governor vetoed it last year, if you know, I didn't know what the rationale was. The bill didn't cost the state anything. The state wasn't at risk because it required $1 of real US money for every token. So can you shed any light on what the counterpoint is on the bill? Those who are opposed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there was no fiscal impact last year, and there was no expenditure of funds. It really was a revenue generating opportunity. I think the governor just didn't, based on the statements that he made, felt uncomfortable with the idea and didn't want really Wyoming to go into this space of virtual currency associated with the Wyoming identity. So I think just generally a general discomfort associated with it. So now I think what you see is an effort of the good Chairman Rothfuss working with the governor's office to perhaps make the opportunity look more traditional. And whereas before the creation of the Stable Token Act would have utilized the resources and expertise of some of the members of the state treasurer's office who were in support of the effort. And now we've created this commission and making it look much more bureaucratic for all of our political comforts. And thus, I think the additional expenses associated with this idea. So the good chairman is here.
Welcome, Senator Rothfuss. And as you go ahead and turn on the mic, as you know, our job is just to look at the appropriation. So,
Yes, sir.
Top line maybe can start with the appropriation there. I don't see anything coming out of the general fund. It looks like it's, well, let me back up a page.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, it does end up being a loan from the general fund as structured.
Okay.
Now, realize, Mr. Chairman, that the Secretary of State's office, for example, generates a tremendous amount of money. The Treasurer's office has money available. When we did this in the past, we tried to utilize some of those funds, but as this creates a new commission, as the new approach, which is again pursuant to requests by the governor to restructure the administrative aspect of it, there's a $500,000 loan from the general fund, which is the first thing paid back. So the intent is to pay back the $500,000 loan. You'll see that. Yeah, and you can see section 4 on page 14 is the transfer of $500,000 from the general fund to the Wyoming Stable Token Administrative Accounts for the purposes of this act. So that's effectively a loan that gets paid back pursuant to page 10, line 12, the Romanet 3, which is that as revenue comes in, pay that first obligation after covering your administrative costs. And then once that's paid off, then start distributing additional funds on a quarterly basis into the Common School Permanent Fund Reserve Account, School Foundation Program Account, and the Permanent Wyoming Mineral Trust Fund.
Okay, so that's clear enough. Take us through the administrative impact if you could. Unless anybody has a question on that portion of it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the administrative impact, you can see it was speculated that you would start with having an executive director for the commission. They'd put together the commission. As we know, the commission's going to basically be on a volunteer basis, but with potential for per diem as they come together and to organize. There will be some initial startup costs that are going to be challenging to speculate at this point in time to contract some of the startup costs for the token and for implementation. But a lot of that transactional cost, the intent all along has been to allow a fee basis. So in other words, as there's an issuance, the entities that would be facilitating them would be able to take 0.1% on the issuance or something along those lines and would be able to have their profit come from sale of services as opposed to a direct payment. So engaging those contractees wouldn't not by intent be a significant cost. They'd just benefit from the process.
Any questions on the administrative costs? Go ahead, Senator Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, I don't understand. It increases quite a little bit from fiscal year 23. Is that just because we're already in 23 and it isn't much of a year? So we would expect it to be 263 each year and 520 per biennium?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, if it's not working and paying for itself by the end of fiscal year 24, hopefully we'll probably just shut it down. This is a program that either pays for itself well and is incredibly valuable, or we don't need the program.
Anything else, Senator Anderson?
Oh.
So the loan and covering the loan and the administrative overhead. Tell me how we make money on this deal.
Mr. Chairman, as the issuance size increases, and I'm sure Senator Nethercott went through the concept of where the money resides. Remember, we're holding US dollars in trust on behalf of the token holder. Those US dollars that are held in trust can be invested only in US treasuries, specifically treasury bills as written. The yield on those would be around 2.5% at this point in time.
Is that 10-year?
No, just 90-day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that as we hold other people's money, we actually can't give them a yield on it. If we gave them a yield, it's a security. It has to be worth $1, start and finish, $1. So who gets the yield? Well, we do. The idea then being, if this is a successful program where there's demand and interest, as there are for other stable coins out there, there's about $100 billion worth of market cap right now for the top two stable coins, and nobody really knows what they have as their underlying assets, and each of them is subject to bankruptcy. The beauty here is we're probably not going bankrupt, and we're going to have a transparent accounting system that points to US treasuries and says, you've got $1, we've got a treasury. Look, you can connect the dots. Wyoming, the state of, is holding those assets on your behalf. We're not going to be subject to liens and bankruptcy or anything else. So you can trust that that dollar is going to be there when you want it. We on the select committee think that that will be a very useful tool and that there'll be demand for those tokens and that we would be holding a significant amount of tokens. So imagine a circumstance, for example, where there were $100 million worth of Wyoming stable tokens issued at any given time. That would be $2 million of revenue, easily covering any costs of the commission. Get into the billions, 10 billions, you start looking at the level of market cap that's available. The ceiling on this is high enough that it could be hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. Will that happen? I don't know. But it's a great tool. And even if it's only in the end useful for the people of Wyoming to engage in transactions for payment of taxes or facilitating transactions that they want where they can trust and engage with the government through instantaneous transactions that don't cost a 3% transaction fee as we do with any of our merchant services engaged with the state. Even at that value where maybe there's $100 million float, it would more than pay for a couple $1 million a year, easily paying back the cost.
And our liability is limited to the dollar. Our full faith and credit's not behind it.
It says so many times in this bill, that exact statement, that it almost got absurd, but we still felt pretty comfortable
Okay.
saying it a few extra times.
Belt suspenders and duct tape.
Oh, boy, absolutely.
Senator
And baling wire too.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Rothfuss, we were talking before you got here about what the governor's issues were. I got a feeling when I read that and I see that over and over again, that I'll bet that was probably one of his problems. And that's what you're trying to address by saying over and over again that it's not the full faith and credit of the state of Wyoming.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, that was there in the beginning. So the governor does have a few concerns, and I won't necessarily have a governor here. All right. So maybe I will just a little bit speak on behalf of the governor, but recognize that
You're not the actual governor.
Right. I'm not the governor. One concern was the administrative structure, where there was concern that it was only residing in one office. And so we put together a commission with a more diffuse governance model. That was one concern addressed. Another concern addressed is, even though we have that statement over and over again, a concern of some possibility of risk to the state and risk to the reputation of the state if things don't go well. And then another risk was just the capacity to get this done, which again is why we came back with some initial revenue available. We'll be working with entities to get this done. And we do have confidence on the select committee, particularly in the fact that we engage directly with a lot of companies that really want to do this. This isn't one where we have to go find an entity to do it. There's literally a consulting company in town that is just chomping at the bit to get to work on a project like this, and there are others available as well.
Anything else for Senator Rothfuss? Anything else? Any agency comment? Agency comment, public comment? Linda,
Mr. Chairman, there's no one registered as a participant.
close
or
comment, it's to the committee. Been moved and seconded, discussion. I'll just throw in, I'll vote on the appropriation to bring it out to the floor. I'm reserving judgment on the floor. I want to hear more, see how the debate goes and what else comes out on it. So I'll vote for it for now, but I'm still a little squeamish on it. Still trying to get my head around the whole token thing. Yeah.
I will say, I did kind of prefer the original draft because it really didn't cost us anything. We kind of had the internal use ability. So if I were given my choice, I would go back to the zero appropriation version we had before. But we saw the fate of that in a glorious veto. So here we are.
You know, I think the commission actually makes sense, you know, because you can get some people with a little, you know, not some of the fly-by-nighters, but some people with some real gravitas. Okay, call the roll.
Senator Anderson,
No.
Senator Carew,
Aye.
Senator Nethercott, Senator Salzar, and Chairman Kinsky.
Aye. All right, Senator, thank you. Senator Case, you are a master of perfect timing. Did you conclude your other two committee matters, or do you need to be in and out of here?
Mr. Chairman, I think the Capitol's gotten taller since I started years ago, but well, one bill is still open in labor, but it's in good hands, I think.
Okay,
And I serve in judiciary today.
all right. Well, thank you for being
Thank you.
here. We appreciate your time. It's heck to be popular, isn't it?
It's a problem of having too many bills. I'm grateful for the committee to hear this bill on a re-referral. There is an appropriation of $100,000 in this bill. And Mr. Chairman, what this bill does is it creates the Wyoming Property Tax Relief Authority. And it would be an authority of the state of Wyoming that could issue bonds
and then to develop a program with local financial institutions like banks and credit unions to allow our citizens to borrow funds to pay their taxes. And it's, I think it'd be a great deal for the state in the sense that if you think about your increase in taxes, it's related to an increase in the value of your home. The leverage on that, if you have 80 mills and the assessment ratios that remains at 9.5%, that means that for every dollar increase in taxes, your home would go up by $131 in the assessor derived valuation. You know, I understand that's not like you put it on the market, but it is an indication of the home's value. So people, if they get a $1,000 tax increase, that would mean that their home has gone up by $131,000. And what this bill would allow for a program whereby the homeowner could go to a bank and borrow the money and receive, in essence, a home equity line of credit. Could be for up to 10 years to be able to pay the increased taxes. And the whole thing is between the homeowner and the bank. It's somewhat similar to a program we have now, which is called the property tax deferral program. But what that does is the taxes aren't paid and a homeowner goes to their county commission and county government and asks to be part of the program. Only one county is doing that now, and it's Representative Garu's County. That program, I think people kind of like the program, but they don't like the intrusiveness of going to government to get the money for the taxes. This way, you just go to the bank, you know, where you get your other loans, the banks would service it, and you borrow money and actually get a line of credit, so you could borrow more money every year for a period of time. You'd use it to pay your taxes. The bank doesn't pay your taxes. You go down and pay your taxes just like you always have. It preserves that dignity. And the bank and the state would receive a lien on the property, but it's not a superior lien. It's just, it would be right where the concurrent with the obligation incurred. Asking for $100,000 to start the program. It's a brand new stand-up program. I know that this committee understands state government more than anybody. I would be happy if this program went to an existing place and was administered in an existing agency. I can't figure out who that would be. I thought about like WCDA or, you know. So I am open to placing this obligation with someone else. And it might be more efficient, but I just don't know where. But I do think this would be a good idea. And it would be a lot of tax relief for our citizens. They'd still owe the money on the taxes, but it's a very, makes economic sense to make these loans and support our citizens to pay their taxes. So that's the bill.
Thank you. Senator Guru and Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we do have the tax deferral program, and I don't, to the best of my knowledge, no one's involved in it. One of the biggest reason that I was here, in addition to the good senator's reasoning, which is true, but the big one is just going to the county and putting a lien, having the county put a proprietary lien on your property, which then makes it, if you're going in, especially if you're a senior, you go in and you buy a new car or you just do anything financial. First question, you know, are there any judgments against you too? Do you have a lien on your property? Boom. And then plus for a lot of seniors, it conjures up a lot of images of, you know, days gone by, poor Texas, poor houses, things like that. It's just more of a mental block too, when people say, well, I would never do that. And so, you know, I tried to do a bill on this same subject and kind of ran into a lot of brick walls. And I think it may not seem like much, but when you live in a county where property values are going up 10, 15, 20% a year, even going to the bank, even at current interest rates, you know, starts to sound doable and actually a financially responsible thing to do if you're a senior to work through something so you can keep paying your bill, especially once again, the people we talk about, fixed income folks, maybe some that are a little higher fixed income, but still trying to face and maybe even making other decisions about, it's not all just about making decisions about the poorest of the poor, but it's about quality of life. So I think I applaud the senator for trying. You got farther than I did, but that's not altogether unpredictable because he's better at this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Did you have anything, Senator Nethercutt? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, Mr. Chairman, I will ask. I think this should hit the floor. I think it should hit the floor for further debate, and I have no objection to the program and the idea behind it. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Anderson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in the fiscal note, I think it's just a clerical error, but it says from the general fund to the no agency. I'm sure that's a new agency. Okay. All right. I didn't know if that was some kind of abbreviation for something else. And then it says it's under the Wyoming Agricultural Authority. Is that where the agency would reside?
I think that's where the loan authority would reside. Mr. Chairman, I think that's where the loan authority would reside.
Is that an existing program, Wyoming Agricultural Authority?
I think it is, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I don't see it in the bill anywhere that it's tied to the agricultural authority.
So I'm gonna look on Title IX.
And I'm okay with it being agricultural, but it's just a little odd, I thought.
Well, it's kind of like the Farm Home Loan Board funding subdivision improvements in cities.
But while you're looking that up, the other thing I'm worried about is this board of 5 members that we're actually going to be compensating with per diem, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess that all comes out of the 100,000 or is there other sources of their income? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I guess we don't know how big this will be really, but this authority would be able to issue bonds, make loans, get the money back from the loans, and eventually run their expenses off the return. It's not a board that would meet very often. They'd have to authorize the bonds, set up the program. But my thinking is that banks and credit unions, financial institutions would want to do this for their customers. They're not big loans, but it would be a great service in the community. So they'll do the legwork. The state sort of stands behind the loans with our bonding authority, which are not obligations of the state. These are municipal bonds and issued by the authority. Senator Anderson is right on. The 100,000 is to get it started. And so, I think we're part-time serving on a board. Maybe it would need a director at some point. I'm totally open to sharing a director with another agency or having this be in another agency. And Article 1, 97101 is community development. So community development, science, technology, and energy authorities. That's where all these authorities are. And so they're kind of independent quasi things.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, please.
it sounds like it could get a little bigger. On page 4, paragraph D, they could appoint an executive director of the authority, then a chief executive officer of the authority. They should serve the pleasure of the board. Sounds like they could have 2 or 3 officials, it sounds like maybe. And that sounds like it may cost them a little money. But maybe they make that much money. I don't know.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's not clear to me the executive director would be a full-time employee. And he could be a member of the board, ex officio member.
Oh, okay.
Further from the committee? Senator Case, do you contemplate that this program might generate some yield for the state or not?
Mr. Chairman, there's an interest rate specified in here, and I suppose the difference between the interest rate on the loans and the bonding and how much float we have would tell us whether this thing actually makes any money. The delinquency rate would be important. But of course, with the lien, I think we're always going to get our money, basically. Because the lien will be a modest sized lien, maybe a maximum of $10,000, $15,000. But it's on a property and that lien's got to be cleaned up when the property's changes hands. So it'll get attention at that time. I don't think we'll lose any money. Will we make money? I probably just break even, unless we could actually get it in another agency somehow.
And the reason for the bond is to do a takeout on the bank so that the bank doesn't hold the paper.
Yeah, basically we'd be underwriting the banks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
These would be good loans for the banks to make. They're not taking a risk, they're just administering it. And so if there's a default by the customer, the bonds would be used to pay the bank. And then we eventually get paid with the lien on the property.
So the bonds ultimately are backed by hundreds of small liens on homes.
Correct.
Okay.
They are, and they're tax exempt bonds. They would qualify for a tax exempt status, which now that interest rates are back up, maybe that means something to investors.
Yeah. Okay. Anything further? Thank you, Senator Case. Agency comment. I'll just say this about comment. Department of Revenue seems logical because they have so many illogical things under them. Why they're running a liquor division is a mystery to me.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, there is a bill to take the property tax deferral program and have it be administered by the Department of Revenue, and a House member is bringing that.
Okay.
So you might eventually get the chance to visit about that.
Okay.
Mr.
Senator Drew.
It's currently there. That's where it kind of hangs out. That property, that the deferral program.
Oh, I thought it was at the county level.
No, we actually, the county level works it, but the money is deposited in the Department of Revenue, and they have an FTE that does it. So I was going to go offline and suggest that maybe that might
Senator
be
Case.
And Mr. Chairman, what I meant to say was the bill will actually get the counties out of doing the paperwork. Right. And it will have the Department of Revenue do it all.
Okay. No agency comment. Comment from the public. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Richard Garrett. I live here in Cheyenne. I was born in Casper. And just a personal story. My mother used to be a constituent of Senator Anderson. And as her health declined, we were confronting many issues. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with those and perhaps have confronted them in your own lives too. One was simply how to continue to provide for her and the needs that decline in health implied. And one of the tools that we looked at was a reverse mortgage on her home. She owned her home outright. And I'm very grateful that we didn't make that decision. It would have been a bad decision, at least in our case. And we heard testimony in committee too, that reverse mortgages are not always necessarily in the interest of the person that's obtaining that mortgage, so that reverse mortgage. So had this program been in place at that time, would have been a terrific alternative for us and given us a chance perhaps to provide better for my mother. So just share that with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions for Rich, Mr. Garrett?
Yeah.
Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further public comment? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing and to the committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Senator Anderson,
Aye.
Senator Guru,
Aye.
Senator Nethercott, Senator Salzar, and Chairman Kinsky.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Cale.
if anybody has a bright idea about where we could house this thing without creating a new agency, I'm in. Thank you,
All
sir.
right.
And
Thank you.
ma'am.
Anything, you're good. Anything else? All right, I'll declare the meeting adjourned.